Trump, Elon Musk, and sleazy lawyers. Let's get dialed in. Hubris, the Texas Kingmakers, an expose documentary put together by my friend Michael Quinn Sullivan of Texas Scorecard, revealed just how sinister and cunning the organization called Texans for Lawsuit Reform, or TLR, truly is. Earlier this week, Texas Scorecard reported to us that tech billionaire Elon Musk is severing ties with that organization and its founder, Dick Weekly. Evidently, Weekly had taken Musk for a proverbial ride, spending millions of his dollars on establishment candidates who are far removed from the grassroots Texas conservative wing of the party with which Elon Musk tends to align himself. Why does this matter? What does it have to do with Donald Trump? And why should you care? Those questions and more is what tonight's segment will address. Few people know the inside baseball of Texas politics as well as my friend Don Hooper. Returning to Texas Talkin is the purveyor of the Houston Conservative Forum, Don Hooper. Don, welcome back.
Hey, thank you, Shiloh, for having me. I always enjoy your podcast.
Likewise, and thank you for jumping on a rare Sunday edition of Texas Talkin. So, Don, why did Elon Musk sever ties with Dick Weekly, as reported recently by Texas Scorecard?
Well, there could be a lot of different reasons, but my guess is that he may have been made aware of the litigation that occurred with the Arnold Foundation, where some of the people involved with Dick Weekly had been sued for stealing $8.5 million from the Arnold Foundation. And I know that John Arnold and Elon Musk know each other, and I'm presuming they spoke.
So most of our viewers probably haven't heard of or don't know what the Arnold Foundation is. What is the Arnold Foundation?
Well, it was a foundation that was set up by John and Laura Arnold here in Houston when John had ended his private equity energy initiative. And at one time, John Arnold was the wealthiest, youngest billionaire in America. He was an energy trader originally at Enron, and he amassed about a $7.5 billion fortune that he put into the foundation. And he's required under the foundation, and it's changed its entity, but the way it was originally formed, and I don't know if the requirements are how much money he spends now, but it is a large percentage of revenue is spent annually. And so he set up a very large criminal justice reform initiative here in Houston that we've been suffering through, as you see, with all these people out on bail bonds. That was put in place by a guy by the name of Dennis Calabrese that works for Dick Weekly. And we've been kind of suffering through this nightmare in Houston of just an outrageous crime spree created by people who are out on bond that
capital
generally
murder.
should
People who are out on capital murder charges.
Yeah, and I guess as a point of reference, my wife left the Harris County District Attorney's Office in 2014. Nobody had ever been allowed out on bond for capital murder. Just never happened. It is insane.
It's insane.
And we have, I think, I used to track it. I think the number got as high as 200 people out on bond for capital murder. I haven't looked at the number recently, but we have over 1,000 people out on bond for either murder or capital murder here in Harris County. And I tell people all the time, when you roll up to a stop sign, there is a probability the person sitting next to you could be out on bond for murder or capital murder. Behave accordingly.
So I want to pull it back to Musk for just a moment. And, he's been a stalwart proponent of free speech. And just recently, in fact, earlier this week, closed his office in Brazil because the Brazilian government was pressuring him to release private information and suppress speech on his platform. What are your thoughts on this, and what are the implications for us?
Well, first of all, I'm just ecstatic that he's chosen to move X, Twitter here to Texas. I think that it is great for Texas. I think it's great for free speech. And if you follow Elon Musk on Twitter, which I do, the or X, that he is a huge proponent of free speech. It is all about free speech, and I can only imagine what the Brazilians were asking him to do for him to do what he did. And I think it sends a message to other governments. I think it sends a message to us. I think it sends a message to our government that censorship is not going to be tolerated by the owner of Twitter. And I couldn't be more delighted.
You and me both. And with Musk severing ties with TLR, it leads me to wonder if perhaps he had not really understood exactly what TLR does, what its reputation in Texas is, and was made aware, and then decided, hey, this organization does not reflect where I would like to see things go in the political realm in Texas. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so again, free speech is kind of the cornerstone of X, if you will. And if you look at Dick Weekly's attempts to roll back the anti-slap law, you which basically allows a person, say Shiloh Platts or Don Hooper says something bad about Dick Weekly. Previously, before the anti-slap laws were in place, he could sue us for slander and shut us up and stymie our speech, get a court order, whatever he was going to do. But under anti-slap, if you could hold a hearing which occurs immediately, and a judge would determine whether or not the anti-slap law has been violated. If the judge determines that it has been violated, he would become liable for your legal fees and damages. Now, usually there's not damages, but it was really put in place to protect journalists and citizen journalists. And it is one of the big reasons why you don't see this myriad of litigation against citizen journalists here in Texas. And the very fact that Dick Weekly's trying to roll back that law in particular, I think is probably something that Mr. Musk wouldn't appreciate very much.
Well,
based on the fact that his platform is based off citizen journalists like you and I.
exactly. That was the whole reason, maybe not the whole reason, but that was a very important reason why he bought X in the Twitter and rebranded it X in the first place, is because he was seeing what so many of us were seeing, which is, especially during that last presidential election cycle, they were censoring so much of what conservatives put out. It was crazy.
Oh, it's been insane. And I think since we last spoke, had my Twitter account been wiped out since I was last on your
No,
platform?
no.
Oh, well, since, and I can't remember the date. I could go back and look at it, but I woke up one day and I couldn't access my Facebook account. I've never been admonished by Facebook. I've never had an issue with Facebook. I've never been suspended by Facebook.
Oh, I have.
Nothing. And then one day, I probably wasn't
Yeah.
trying hard enough, but I never used that platform because I always had my own blog and everything. That I never used Facebook for that purpose, but it was just gone. And I'd written significantly about John Arnold, and I wasn't blind to the fact 10 days after John joined the Meta board, my account disappeared. And
Wow. Wow.
the
Probably no coincidence there.
no. And I was just kind of like, okay. And, I'm not going to go back and reapply and set up another account. I just went, you know what? And then I upped my subscription to X and became a premium member. And so I've been writing articles on X, thinking that, my speech will be a whole lot less censored on X. And so if you go to the Houston Conservative Forum, you can see some of the articles I've written there. And I think I posted one or two old articles in thinking about trying to migrate all of the articles and the hundreds of articles I've ever written and put it on X, thinking that they will be safer there.
They probably will be. I would also. I mean, this parallels kind of my experience that I've had with Rumble and YouTube. I archive all of my podcast episodes on Rumble because, and I just barely started putting them back on YouTube because when I first kind of tested the waters with YouTube, I mean, it was almost immediately they were taking down segments, telling me that I was spreading misinformation, so on and so forth. So I thought, to hell with it. I'm just going to put everything on Rumble, and then of course I post these episodes on X and Facebook as well. Interestingly, Facebook has become much more lenient with me since I became a premium member. So, I guess if you're willing to throw a little bit of money at them, Facebook would kind of tamp it down and leave you alone a little bit.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yes, yes, you can. So,
That's interesting.
one
Well,
of the,
I did.
go ahead.
I was just going to add that I was appreciative and acknowledged Ken Paxton's $1.4 billion settlement with Meta on the day he settled, and the certainly had been talking to their attorneys over there.
I would imagine so. And another, probably the most famous case of censorship on both Twitter and Facebook was that of President Donald Trump. And I want to tie all this together for a minute because in my intro, I told our viewers that we would talk about why all of this is important, why it matters to them, and how it has to do with Donald Trump. The Trump campaign team is being reorganized and revamped. And I wanted to ask you, Don, who is Chris LaCivita and how has his role in the Trump campaign had an adverse impact on Texas politics?
I would think it had an adverse impact on Trump's campaign, but I've described recently that LaCivita, who was George P. Bush's consultant against Ken Paxton for the attorney general race, um, is now running Trump's campaign, and he is with a consulting group called FP1. And Steve Munisteri just announced that he was going to FP1, leaving
Former
the
chairman of the
governorship.
Republican Party of Texas, for those who don't know who
Yeah,
Munisteri was.
right. And most recently, he had been working for Governor Greg Abbott and left his employ and went to FP1 as well, who was doing John Cornyn's Senate campaign. And so, here you have, FP1 running John Cornyn's campaign, Trump's campaign, and then Steve Ministeri leaving to go over there. I mean, to me, as I described to many people, that this whole cadre of people thought open borders was a great idea as
Yeah.
little as 18 months ago. And that to me is stunning. So, but anyway, I think the president is making some corrections, and I just saw today that they're still there, but let's see where it goes and where it migrates from. But I could sit there and make the argument that Trump needed to make alliances within the establishment. He already had us. I mean, we're definitely going to vote for him, right? And the but it is definitely interesting politics, and I am hopeful that it's headed in the right direction.
And let's make no
And
go ahead.
oh, no, that's all. I
Let's
was
make
finished
no
with my concern.
mistake. La Civita, as I understand it, is probably the reason why Ken Paxton did not speak at the Republican National Convention. Chris La Civita is probably the reason why Donald Trump did not come to the Republican Party of Texas convention. And as I understand it, Chris La Civita is the reason why Donald Trump did not come down here for a Covey campaign rally.
Um, I would think all of those things are true. I certainly was aware that there were certain commitments made for Donald Trump to come to the RPT convention. He did not. He was in Texas. He was in Houston,
The day
in
before.
Dallas, right, on two of those nights. And our understanding is that before, I forget how long before we learned that he wasn't coming. And but I would say that fact that he didn't come probably allowed Dade Phelan to win his reelection.
And that's
And
how
especially if he had flown, my understanding was that he was going to fly to Orange and campaign or have a rally in the Beaumont area for David Covey. If that had happened, I would have think that would have sunk Dade Phelan's ship. But I don't think Dade Phelan's coming back as speaker. But
let's
anyway,
talk about that for a minute. So you don't think he has enough support left among his 10 or 11 Republican loyalists and all the Democrats to secure the vote for speaker?
I do not. And the reason why I say that, and my good friend Luke Macias, because I was very upset when I saw the people that were participating with Nate Schatzline on his fundraiser, and you saw TLR, and you saw, Mike Toomey, and you saw Daniel Hodge, and all of these big lobbyists that had worked against all of the conservatives. They work against RPT, and it's that move, that one thing was a message. That fundraiser was a message to Dade Phelan. Hey, you're not coming back as speaker. We're aligning ourselves. I wouldn't say aligning ourselves, but we're making nice with these new members that were elected. And make no mistake, it was a tremendous victory by DTL and the West Texas group and the conservative groups who put up a tremendous fight and had tremendous victories in the legislative victories that we had. I mean, I, I, I'd have to look, but I know that last time I looked, that TLR was over $50 million in spending, and I think the guys were at 23 or 24. I have to go back and look at the same number. So spent half as much and knocked off a lot of establishment
Yes,
Republicans
15.
who care about our border, who care about illegal immigration, who care about our economy, who care about the oil and gas industry, who care about our criminal justice system and the preservation of it. It was a tremendous victory. And so it was kind of a, place to Dade Phelan to have his core group of people say, hey, we're going to go to a fundraiser for Nate Schatzline. and Bonin was there too, and I was just like, yeah, I've got, Luke walked me back off the edge on that one. So.
I'm glad. And Luke Macias is in that same category that I place you, of people who are really dialed in to the inside baseball of Texas politics.
Oh no, I defer all of that campaign. I mean, I observe it, and I have a different perspective because my wife's work with the lawyering that goes along with RPT. But when I have questions like that, and when I don't understand something, there's a group of people that I call. Luke is one of them, and there's a group of lobbyists that I also call in Austin. It was kind of funny. Even the lobbyists on that side of the aisle were, hey, I think this is a message. And then when Luke told me what was going on, I was like, yeah, no, that's exactly what that is.
It was kind of a subtle FU, for lack of better terminology, if you want to take a
Yeah.
look at it. And for the
Well, yeah, subtle FU and don't think about coming back. Yeah.
making things abundantly clear to our friend Dade. For those who didn't see our last interview together, and you alluded to it a minute ago, your wife, Rachel Hooper, is the general counsel of the Republican Party of Texas. She's a very high-powered attorney. You have agreed to come back on for an interview at a later time, a later date, to talk about this gangland shooting, for lack of a better term, between the Banditos and Cossacks, I believe, at a Twin Peaks in Waco, Texas. A fascinating story.
The story that's never been told. My wife litigated that case for 6 years, and I, I've and I just kind of know that everybody that settled and were involved with the shootout in Waco. 9 people were killed there that day, very tragically. But it was something that was a very big part of our lives for a number of years, and we just couldn't talk about it. But the lawyer for the Banditos is kind of based here in Houston. He's friends with Rachel and I, and the uh, yes, I will come back and talk to you about the events and the litigation, the testing of all the firearms from the Cossacks, the Banditos, and law enforcement, and who shot who, because that was the big question. My wife represented Twin Peaks, and they got sued over wrongful death and injury. I think there was 21 people shot, 9 people were killed there that day. But it was a very fascinating investigative work to figure out who had actually killed who in during that gunfight, which happened in a matter of seconds, and probably changed Texas in the way we think about our motorcycle gangs and our guns and everything else, because that was all before constitutional carry. It's very interesting part of Texas history,
Oh,
in
it's
my
fascinating.
opinion, and nothing's really been written about it or talked about. But yes, I will come back and talk to you about it.
And we will do that here. Don, I want to thank you for taking time to come back on and talk to
Oh,
us.
thank you, Shiloh. I enjoy your show very much. So.
Thank you. And as I always tell my viewers, you may not take an interest in politics, but politics definitely takes an interest in you and your children, with or without your permission. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas. Stay dialed in to interviews and content just like this by clicking that follow button on my Facebook page, or hit the subscribe button to learn more about exclusive access that you won't want to miss.